there, I'm Kayla and this is my cottage. Today we're going to be talking about my most anticipated book releases of 2026. I've been getting super excited about the books that are releasing later on this year, so I thought I might as well share my intel with all of you. So let's get right into it. I'm so excited for these books to come out. The first one is My Grandfather, the Master Detective. This one comes out on March 17th, so it might actually be out by the time this video gets up. And this book is described as the Thursday Murder Club meets Japanese healing fiction, and this cover is just gorgeous. I love it, and honestly, I don't need to know anything else besides it's like a Japanese elderly man solving a mystery. That just sounds so fun, and this cover looks so great. It also says that this book was a hit and a bestseller in Japan, and it was just translated and is releasing or being published in English for us English speakers, so I'm super excited to see what this book is all about. The next book is The House of Hidden Letters by Izzy Broom, and this book is about the main character named Sky, who buys a Greek cottage for sale for like €1. I don't know if that's accurate, but it says €1. And she goes to this cottage, but of course, because it's on sale, it's in disarray, and she basically needs to fix it up, but she finds a bunch of hidden letters in the fireplace of the cottage, and I'm assuming unfold some kind of story from the past. I don't know if it relates to her. It's a dual timeline, it's historical fiction, and I don't know why, this just sounds really interesting and I want to read it. I also love books that are set in other countries, especially like romanticized European countries like Italy, France, Greece. So I'm really interested to read this book, and the cover is also quite cute. This one also comes out March 17th. The next book that also comes out the same day, March 17th, big day for historical fiction lovers, because this book, The Shock of the Light by Laurie Ingalls-Hall, is another historical fiction. This one follows a set of twins, a girl and a boy twin, and it's set during World War II. The girl twin, who's named Tessa, joins the Special Operatives Executive. Basically, she doesn't come home, but the boy Theo does, and many years later, there's a PhD student who is researching the SOE and meets or reaches out to Theo, and they discover the story of his missing twin and what happened. I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but this cover is beautiful. I was definitely intrigued by the cover and the title. I know it's like another historical fiction set in World War II, but it has really great initial reviews and it's really intriguing me, so excited for that. The next book is The Book Witch by Meg Schaefer. This book comes out on April 7th, so first April book. This one has a really cool premise because it follows a character who can go into the worlds of books. She's a third generation book witch, and she needs to defend works of fiction from all foes, whatever that means. Honestly, I don't know too much about this book, but the premise sounds amazing. Well, let me just read this ending blurb. But when her beloved grandfather disappears and a priceless book is stolen, there's only one person she trusts to help her solve the case, the Duke. Their quest takes them through the worlds of Alice in Wonderland, The Great Gatsby, and other classics that will reveal hidden enemies and long-buried family secrets. So I don't know what they're fighting, and I don't really know what is happening, but just the premise is so fun and sounds so good. I'm also really excited because I know Meg Schaefer is a known author. I think she wrote The Wishing Game, and so I'm super excited for this. It sounds so fun. The next book also comes out on April 7th, and that is Start at the End by Emma Gray. Emma Gray has written other books that have gotten high ratings, such as Pictures of You. I haven't read them, but this book really intrigued me because I know nothing about it. It's a contemporary romance. It deals with a love story and grief, I believe, but the synopsis is really vague and doesn't really tell you anything about it. it just says it's a sliding doors novel, and I don't know what that means. And I'm assuming it's a concept like, I don't really know what sliding doors means, but I don't really want to look it up because I read some of the initial reviews and they said that you should go into this book knowing as little as possible. So I'm assuming it's going to be kind of a non-linear narrative, or that's just my assumption because it says start at the end. So I'm thinking maybe we literally start at the end in the book and that's why I should know nothing about it. But because I don't know anything about it, it leaves me really intrigued. So I'm really looking to read this year. The next book is called The Midnight Show by Lee Kelly and Jennifer Thorne. This comes out April 7th as well. Again, with the beautiful covers this year, I love the cover and the premise is really interesting. It's about a group of college improv comedians in the 1980s, and they get the chance to be on a late night show. The kind of star of this comedy group is a character called Lillian Martin, and this is kind of a big deal because, you know, female comedians are like less common than male comedians. The show becomes a hit, they become a hit, like Lillian and her friends, and they're basically thrown into the limelight as celebrities, as celebrity comedians. But one day, Lillian goes missing and no one really uncovers the mystery or secret of why. But 40 years later, a journalist wants to research and investigate, and it's kind of going back to discover what happened to Lillian and what is the resolution of this mystery that was never solved. This ending blurb is super interesting. It says, a propulsive story of fame and friendship, The Midnight Show takes readers behind the scenes of the cutthroat world of comedy in 1980s New York and asks if the rush of getting laughed is all it's cracked up to be. So this sounds super interesting. It's covering celebrities, comedians. I just love that atmosphere and premise, but it's also a mystery and it's also historical fiction because it's in the 1980s and such. And so I'm super excited to read this and discover what happened to Lillian. The next book, also coming out on April 7th, big day, April 7th, is called American Fantasy. This is by Emma Straub. This book is about what happens when your teenage fantasy comes true after you're already an adult. And it kind of follows this character named Annie, who's newly divorced and with an empty nest. She kind of ends aboard this ship where there's a super popular band who are like older now, I believe. She was a diehard fan of this band as a teenager, and she's like on this ship amongst a lot of other fans. I don't really know exactly what this book is about. Like, I don't know what the vibe is. It seems it's gonna be on the lighter hearted side, but I don't really know. I just thought it was so interesting, the concept of the idea of like fangirls when they become older, because I'm a fangirl and I feel like even as a fangirl, I've already started aging out of my fangirl personality and era because it's a very like teenage girl thing, I feel like, but that was such a big part of my past. So I really was intrigued by the whole premise of this book. Oh, I left out something super important. I'm pretty sure this is a romance because Annie becomes friends and strikes up conversation with one of the band members. So that's super intriguing. The next book is Annie Knows Everything. This is a contemporary romance and it follows Annie. And Annie's basically going through some things in her life. I believe she gets laid off from her job and her sister's getting engaged again, but Annie apparently ruined the first engagement party, so she's kind of dealing with the awkwardness of that. She is trying to get a job in an open position in her old company's data strategy team, but she's never coded, but she wants the job because she got laid off. So it's a romance between her and Connor, who is the manager of the data team that she's trying to get a job with, and well, I'm assuming she gets the job. I think the dynamic is going to be like, I hate to say this, but socially capable girl with like a data team of tech nerds, like a nerdy guy, sociable girl. That's not even a trope, but you know what I mean. And I'm really excited about this. The cover is so cute. I love that this is set in New York City and also that it's about the tech world and a company romance, because it's been a while since I've read a workplace romance. I can't even think of one. And I also have been wanting to read something set in the tech world. I think that would be fun because I'm a computer science major, so it's relatable, question mark. The next book is Into the Blue, a Love Story by Emma Brody. This comes out April 7th. This is around the realm of acting and comedy, which I love reading about that world. And it's about AJ, who dreams of writing for SNL and meets Noah, who is part of the Drew acting dynasty. So I'm assuming a family of actors, and they become friends and acting partners until Noah disappears. But then years later in New York City, AJ gets herself cast in the same TV show as Noah, who is at this point a Hollywood heartthrob, and romance ensues from there. This premise sounds amazing and sounds exactly up my alley, so I'm super excited for it. The next book I'm super excited for, it's I Could Give You the Moon by Anne Liang. And I didn't even realize this until I read some of the initial reviews, but this is kind of the sequel / companion to If You Could Give Me the Sun, or you know what I'm talking about, that book by Anne Liang. That was the first book I read by Anne Liang, and after that I've read 4 or 5, I believe, and I've given 3 of them 5 stars, so I'm a big fan, and so this is so exciting and big news. I saw that Anne Liang was releasing a book this year, and I immediately hit want to read, but I didn't even realize until reading the synopsis later on that it's following like the world of If You Could See the Sun. I didn't realize it was following that world, but that makes me even more excited, and it also makes me so appreciative of the titles, like the sun and the moon. Small things impress me. I just love that so much though. I don't even need to know what this is about, honestly, because I'm just so excited to get another Anne Liang book, especially one in a atmosphere of the academy that I really enjoyed reading about. But it's about Chanel. I believe it's the main character from If You Could See the Sun's best friend. But honestly, I read that book a while ago, so don't quote me on that. But it's about Chanel, who kind of creates a picture-perfect social media personality, and she meets this boy named Aries, and Aries is dealing with his brother being missing, and Chanel is dealing with her parents secretly being separated. So they have these things going on, and when they meet, they share a vision of the future, which I totally forgot that the first book had this supernatural element to it, but I guess that's the supernatural element in this book. Anyways, I will always be hyped for an Anne Liang book, and I'm super excited for this to come out and for me to get my hands on it. The next book is The Language of Liars by S.L. Huang. This comes out April 21st. I'm so excited about this. It's about this guy named Ro who trained as a spy and is trying to infiltrate this species of called star eaters, and he needs to really infiltrate and assimilate in terms of culture, mind, language, basically needs to become them. This is actually a novella, a science fiction novella. So I don't really know what the goal of this is, besides that the spy needs to assimilate into this species. But I just saw some reviews and people said that this is for the linguistics nerds, and I'm also a linguistics major, so I can't help but be super intrigued to see why this is for the linguistics nerds, so I have to read this year. The next book is Boring Asian Female by Kanwen Shu. This comes out April 28th. This book, I've been saying this every single time, but I'm so excited for. This is basically about a girl named Elizabeth Zhang. It says she's in 10th percentile for likability, 70th percentile for attractiveness, and the 99th percentile for academics. While she's never been the most beautiful or most liked, she knows she has the intelligence and ambition to achieve her greatest dream, Harvard Law School. But when Harvard rejects Elizabeth for not standing out enough, which she knows means she's just another boring Asian female, her carefully constructed life falls apart. What shocks her even more is that Laura Kim, a classmate at Columbia, got in. As you can see, it's about Elizabeth, who is super smart, has the grades and everything, should be getting into Harvard Law School in her head, but her classmate, who she probably thinks is not as good as her, does get in, and she's just really confused. So she starts watching everything Laura does, like what she eats, and needs to figure out why Laura has taken her spot at Harvard Law School. This synopsis is a little bit vague. I'm assuming this is like a mystery thriller, or maybe not a mystery, but I'm assuming this is going to be a psychological thriller or something, because I don't know what Elizabeth is up to, but it seems like she's about to do something to Laura. I think this, honestly, the title of Boring Asian Female is so funny to me. As someone who maybe back in the day, I maybe fit the archetype of boring Asian female. So this is especially interesting to me because of that, and I'm really excited to read this and see what that's all about. The next book is The Young Will Remember by Eve J. Chung, and this comes out May 5th. First of all, look at this cover. The cover is so beautiful. That really caught my eye. This is a historical fiction. It follows the character of a Chinese American journalist, Ellie Chang. It's set in 1950, and Ellie Chang is on a military flight to cover a battle in the mountains of North Korea when her plane is shot down. So it's set during the Korean War, I believe, and Ellie is stuck in a very scary situation after her plane gets shot down. She's surrounded by the enemy. She doesn't speak Korean. It's under the backdrop of the war, but it's the story of how this character finds her way back home or back into a safer situation and is protected by a string of women who rescue and help her. I'm super excited for this. The blurb actually mentions that The Young Will Remember sheds light on a forgotten war, and I think that's really interesting because you know how everyone says that all the historical fiction books are set during World War II? I like how the blurb says this was the forgotten war because I've never read a book regarding this time period, and I can't think of a mainstream book that is already set during this time period. So I'm super interested to read this. I think the premise is really interesting, and the cover, again, is gorgeous. The next book coming out on May 5th is Our Perfect Storm by Carley Fortune. Again, the beautiful cover. Carley Fortune is, at this point, the queen of summer romances. She has been releasing cover after beautiful cover. I haven't read this one yet, but her book, One Golden Summer, is literally like my favorite book cover I've seen in my life. It is so unbelievably beautiful, and I love the aesthetic she's built up with her covers, and she does not disappoint with this cover as well. I love the yellow contrast on the purple background. It is so beautiful. But anyways, this book covers two best friends, Frankie and George, and they've been childhood best friends, but it's the eve of Frankie's wedding weekend, and basically the wedding happens, but Frankie's fiance dumps her the next morning. So she really has to deal with that, and she wants to wallow, but she and her ex-fiance, I guess, obviously had this honeymoon planned and prepared. So the two best friends go on the honeymoon together, and assuming they fall in love and repair their friendship as well. Classic Carley Fortune, gotta love it, gotta love to see it. I definitely will be sat for this release, and again, I'm excited as I always am for another Carley Fortune book. The next book is another classic summer romance author. It's The Summer of Second Chances by K.L. Walter, and this is the author who wrote The Summer of Broken Rules. And actually, I'm not sure if this is like in that world because it has the same like title, but I loved The Summer of Broken Rules. I also read What Happens After Midnight, and I thought that one was fun too. Again, with the cute cover. So this is of course a YA romance, YA summer romance, and it's about Olivia, who is kind of stuck behind because all of her friends have gone on to start their first year of college, but Olivia can't bear to be away from her beloved grandmother, Annie, who has dementia. And her stepmother tells her that she should go to Martha's vineyard to spend 3 weeks in the summer with the family. And Olivia doesn't want to leave her grandmother, but she discovers a box with memories and photos of her grandmother at the vineyard, so she wants to go see for herself. So she does end up going, and there she meets Connor, who's a boy from her past. And of course, romance ensues from there. And again, with the classic romance author, we have Dolly All the Time by Annabelle Monaghan. This comes out May 26th, and this is about Dolly, who is a mom. She has a son, and she goes to Rhode Island for the summer to keep her dad and brother from losing the family home. But there she meets a man, Stuart, who is basically part of a rich family, I believe, and he has gone through a very humiliating breakup. So I'm assuming they do some fake dating. They do a kind of arrangement. It's not really like revealed or described yet of the details of this arrangement, but I'm assuming fake dating, summer on Rhode Island with a handsome guy from a rich family. So I'm sold. And again, with the past 3 romance authors, I love the aesthetic of the book covers they have created. And so again, I love this. The next book comes out May 26th. It's Behind 5 Willows by June Her. Oh my god, this cover looks so cute. This is a YA historical romance, and this is really interesting because it's Korean, I believe. So if you're like me and you love watching K-dramas and historical K-dramas, then this one should be perfect for you and me. It follows 2 characters, and the main character's older sister has fallen in love with a wealthier guy, and so the main character, whose name is Haewon, needs to escort her older sister while this whole courting thing is happening, I guess. And the guy's best friend also escorts them, and then they fall in love. But also, secretly, the main guy, who's Sojun, is a writer, and Haewon is the transcriber or something like that. She does something about his writing, and she sends him secret letters. And basically it's like they've been corresponding secretly, but they fall in love in person is what I think. And this just sounds really cute. I love the backdrop, and I'm so excited to read this. The next book is The Open Era by Edward Schmidt. This comes out June 2nd. This is basically 2 tennis players falling in love. It's Austin, who's been openly gay since high school, but it suddenly becomes a big deal, and it gets a lot of media attention when he becomes like a pro tennis player and plays in a Grand Slam. He creates a friendship with the world's number 2 best tennis player, and romance ensues from there, I assume. This is kind of funny because I feel like with the whole heated rivalry revolution, it's like another rivals to lovers in sports, but for tennis. Although actually, I don't really know if they're like quite rivals or not. But the next book is Sublimation by Isabel J. Kim. This book has an insane premise. It's like, what if when you cross a border, you get split into 2 people? And it kind of covers the idea of what if. It's like, especially for people who immigrate. This is following Soyoung Rose Kang, who left Korea and went to another country, and so she's living as like Rose after she immigrated, but there's still another copy of her, like a clone, Soyoung, in Korea. But the Rose version gets called back when her grandfather dies, but her copy of her, Soyoung in Korea, wants to take over Rose's body and steal her life. So wait, that just sounds incredibly interesting. It seems like it's a mixture of literary fiction, speculative fiction, science fiction, horror. Like, that just sounds incredible, and this comes out June 2nd. The next book is called Tropesic. This is by Lauren Oakey, and it comes out June 16th. This is a contemporary romance, and it's about 2 childhood neighbors who were connected by shared tragedy because the female main character's brother overdosed. And they need to spend time together to ghostwrite a love story for an author. So it's kind of like forced proximity. I thought the cover was so funny because I do think how like it's interesting how the romance tropes are so... I feel like someone could be trope sick because everyone describes romances through tropes, and on one hand I love it. Like I think it's so fun hearing that this book is enemies to lovers, academic rivals to lovers, childhood friends to lovers, and then you kind of know, like if you like enemies to lovers, you know if you'd be more intrigued to read it, and it's fun to also tell people what a book is about by describing it by tropes. But on the other hand, I also agree with people who could be sick of tropes because you are kind of telling them the premise of exactly the dynamic of the characters, and maybe books are best read when you don't know that much about the synopsis and what happens. So I thought this was so funny, but it's actually more like a love letter to the romance genre because the author says that they put in like a bunch of tropes. They're like spamming tropes, but I'm actually still really interested to see it because I'm curious if it's done in a sophisticated way or if it's going to feel too tropey, because it says there's grumpy sunshine, brother's best friend, girl next door, forced proximity, forbidden love, kissing in the rain, groveling hero, second chance romance, slow burn, and only one bed. The next book is Destination Funeral by Paige Harbison. This comes out July 21st, and I am obsessed with the title and the cover of this. It's so beautiful, and I love the idea of a destination funeral, not a destination wedding. So the concept of this book is that there are 4 estranged friends who return and reunite for a destination funeral, which is set on an island, and they return for the funeral of, it's kind of vague, but it says the matriarch of their teenage summers, whatever that means, and they think they're just gonna go to the funeral and leave, but they get stuck in kind of a Groundhog Day situation where the Saturday keeps repeating and repeating and repeating. So they need to collaborate, and basically they need to face the tension and unfinished business and relationships of the past, that whatever made them estranged in the first place. I love the idea of this. This is actually one of the books I'm the most excited about this year, and it's so cool because I just found it randomly, so I cannot wait for July 21st. I'm also so excited about this one. This is called When Mikan Road Was Ours by D.K. Furutani, and I believe this is a debut author. Again, I love the title and love the cover of this so much. This one is following 4 generations of a Japanese American family. It's historical fiction, and in particular, it follows Murano, who is half Japanese and half white, I believe. He finds the unpublished memoir of his great uncle and basically learns more about his family's history. I believe it's just a historical fiction that follows this Japanese American family through 4 generations, and it also helps Murano reconnect more with his Japanese side of his heritage. I'm super interested in this because I've never read fiction about the incarceration camps for Japanese during World War II, so I'm really interested to read that, especially as someone Japanese American myself. I'm very interested in the content matter and curious about what this author has to say with a story about a Japanese American family. The next book also comes out July 28th, and that's Meet Me in Paris by Kristen Harmel. This is also a historical fiction, but it's also romance. I don't know too much about this. I just know it's marketed as if Love Actually meets The Notebook. That's really intriguing to me because I think it's going to be a lot of different characters and a lot of different stories regarding love, grief, pain, and whatnot. So I'm ready for it to hopefully rip my heart out. And I also really, I think I've said this already, but I love stories set in like Paris or just other places that are romanticized because I love reading about having that romanticized setting. And this next one is actually the reason I even wanted to create this video, because I was just scrolling through TikTok and I stumbled upon this TikTok that had like the aesthetic of a book. Those are the ones that I really like because people will make a collage or Pinterest board of the aesthetic of either the two characters in a romance novel or just the whole entire aesthetic of the book. And I stumbled upon this one, and it was about like a tennis player and a celebrity, and it was just really aesthetic. So I checked out what book they were talking about, and it was this one, which is A Summer of Stars by Liang and I didn't realize it wasn't out yet because this comes out August 11th. And I actually was so sad because I wanted to read it now, but it comes out later this year. This is what inspired me to research and look for other books that are coming out this year, and this is what started all of my excitement and anticipation for book releases. First of all, can we appreciate the cover again? The covers are killing it this year. I love it so much. But this one is fake dating with a tennis star who had a messy breakup and has a bad reputation with the golden boy of Hollywood. He is well liked, I think, but he needs good PR for his new romance movie because he is known for being a player. So they do fake dating for PR, and it just sounds super cute, and I just like the aesthetic sold me. The next book is Taipei's Story by R.F. Kuang. This is very interesting because it's more of a contemporary fiction, maybe romance, which is quite different based on the past R.F. Kuang books, but I love that this author has range. I admittedly have not read an R.F. Kuang book yet, but I really want to, and again, I really appreciate the different genres R.F. Kuang has touched upon, but this one in particular is more of a coming-of-age fiction story. It follows Lily, who's a college freshman, and she spends a summer in Taipei for a summer intensive language program. She wants to connect with her culture, but it's a bit more difficult than she thought because I think she struggles with fitting in, and also people are gossiping about her for spending time in a hot tub with a guy. It's giving To All the Boys I Loved Before, which I love. Then she gets news that her grandfather has passed away and things ensue. This one comes out September 8th, so I don't really know too much about it, and I haven't really seen many reviews for it yet, but I'm so curious about what R.F. Kuang has to say in terms of a coming-of-age novel. And as per usual, there's a language aspect of it being a language summer program, and that's actually really interesting because that is something I would have loved to do if I knew that was a thing. And I just love languages, like I've said earlier. I love the concept of itself, but I'm especially curious because it's R.F. Kuang, and this is just such an intelligent woman. Like, whenever I see R.F. Kuang speak, it's so respectable and intelligent, and I'm curious how it's going to translate to a contemporary fiction coming-of-age novel. And the 26th most anticipated book coming out on September 17th, Exit Party by Emily St. John Mandel. This is the author of Station 11, which I read. I thought it was alright, honestly, but I'm really curious about this premise. It's also really hyped up. The premise is pretty vague, actually. It's just set 2031, America's at war with itself, and the Republic of California has been announced, and the curfew of Los Angeles has been lifted, and everyone's going to party. That just sounds insane. It also sounds like a very interesting, speculative, and science fiction novel. That is all there is. It's pretty vague, but I actually love when synopses are like not giving you everything because it makes you more curious, and I think we need more of that. So yeah, those are my 26 most anticipated releases for the rest of the year. I will say my top 3 off the top of my head are Destination Funeral. I'm so curious by the premise, and I think it's really interesting and sounds fun to discover what the unfinished business was between all of them. And I'm also excited for When Mikan Road Was Ours. I love the title, and I'm also really curious because I don't think I've read a Japanese American focused novel before. I've just read like more Japanese ones. And then the third highest one is of course The Summer of Stars, because that's what started this all to like make me excited and everything. But there's even more books to be excited about, because I actually had to narrow down the list for 2026 to become 26 books, and there are a lot of other exciting novels. The first ones that come to mind are from well-loved and established authors. So we have The Night We Met coming out in March by Abby Jimenez. This is boyfriend's best friend, which I'm curious how that's going to play out. And then we have The Shippers coming out in May, which is by Catherine Senner, and The Romance Revival in July by Christina Lauren. I've read both of these romance authors and I enjoyed their books, but the synopsis for these two weren't that interesting to me, so they're under honorable mentions, but still super excited for them. Also with Ashley Poston coming out with The Someday Garden in June. So excited for this. It's so cute. I haven't read Ashley Poston yet, but it is something I have been meaning to read, and I love the magical realism romance niche she has slotted herself into, and I think it's such a great concept. We have The Escape Game coming out in April. I was intrigued by this because it's by Marissa Meyer, and I haven't seen her do a YA mystery before, but I'm intrigued because Marissa Meyer is actually one of my favorite YA authors because of the Cinder series, which I really loved. So I'm curious what her YA mystery looks like. We have The Last Page coming out in May. I don't know this author, but I was intrigued by the premise because it's about this female main character who has grown up loving this bookstore in New York, and then she works there as an adult. And then after the owner passes away, the ownership goes to his grandson, so the grandson has to come figure things out, and romance ensues. So I love that it's about a bookstore in New York and about people who love books. And Patchett's coming out with another book called Whistler in June. This, I believe, follows a woman who reunites with her old stepfather, and it's about their relationship that they rebuild, something like that. We have another Lynn Painter book, Trust Fall, coming out in September. The cover is to die for. It's giving Gilmore Girls and Fall. I love it. It's kind of like inheritance games where the female main character gets inheritance from this stranger family, and she moves to like an elite academy, and the love interest is the grandson of the guy who gave her this inheritance, and he's suspicious because he's like, where's my will? So very interesting premise. We have The Parisian Heist coming out in July. I don't know much about this, but just I love the idea of reading about a Parisian heist. Again, I want to read something set in Paris. We have Bad Words coming out in October. This is a romance book blurbed by Emily Henry, so that's already giving it buzz. I believe about the guy's a writer, and then the girl gives him a bad review, or gives his writing bad reviews. I don't really know yet, but we will know later on this year. Fishbone Cinderella coming out in July by Elizabeth Lim. Elizabeth Lim is the same author who wrote Six Crimson Cranes, which has been on my TBR for so long, and I really, really want to read that. But this one, first of all, has a gorgeous cover again, and it loosely follows the Cinderella story, and it has it's like historical fantasy because it's like set in Hong Kong, and then bad things happen and the main character disappears, and then it's set in San Francisco. I don't know if it's dual timeline or spanning the generations, but really interested to see historical fiction with like some fantasy or magical realism kind of thing. Then we have The Last Contract of Isako coming out in May by Fonda Lee. This is the author of the Jade City trilogy, and this one in a space world, like space saga, and the main character is a samurai for hire. So doesn't that sound amazing? Yeah, it does. I'm so excited for it. And we have Mad Mabel coming out in April. I don't really know too much about it, again with the vague synopsis summary, but I think it follows Mabel, and the synopsis is kind of like, oh, people never expect young girls or old women to be murderers. So Okay, let me see what that's all about. And then we have 2 space/astronaut books, which is interesting. The first one is The Infinite Love Story. This one comes out in July, and this one is about a couple where the guy's an astronaut and goes into space. This is during the space race, but then that spaceship loses contact with the world, so everyone thinks they're gone. But his wife receives correspondence that she believes could only be from him. So it's like space race with some magical realism, because I'm assuming this correspondence is magical. I think it's letters, like magic letters. I don't really know. And then the next one is Celestial Lights, coming out in March. This one, it's more vague. It's about a man who is an astronaut, and when he is set into space on a mission, not even like a mission of like just finding a moon, he just deals with a lot of, it seems like very introspective, like introspecting into his past and his choices and all that. I don't really know. Again, with the cover intriguing me, it's so cute, and I really liked the way the synopsis was written. It had some beautiful writing, so I'm just kind of curious about it. So those are the 26 I'm really looking forward to, plus some honorable mentions that I think we should all be aware and know about, because it's awesome to have some things to look forward to in your life during 2026. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for staying around. And I hope we can all read a lot of these books in 2026. I feel like it's kind of hard to be excited for new releases, because how do I read all these new releases when I need to read all the backlog of things I've been meaning to get to? But it's a very fun problem to have. Hopefully we can read all of these this year together, and hopefully you've learned some new things to add to your TBR. Bye!